Hello audio fans and music listeners. My name is Gavin and welcome to the Audiophile Wannabe Show. I'm not really sure if it's much of a show, but that's what we're going to call it. And we do like to remind people, have a new motto, that as beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so too is sound in the ear of the listener. On today's video, this will be episode number 3 in a series that I've been doing regarding how to maximize your sound system's true potential. The first 2 videos were about soundstage and then room treatments. And those 2 videos, the intent was to help you set up what, in my opinion, is the most important component in your stereo system, and that's actually the room itself. So having said that, your system is actually sort of like a caterpillar in a cocoon now, and it's going to eventually become a butterfly. And whereas it was a caterpillar, it's in the cocoon, there's a metamorphosis going on, and we want that metamorphosis to continue. And that's why we're going to talk today about vibration detoxification. So with the addition of a soundstage, and you did your room treatments, that is kind of like all of a sudden your sound has expanded in a way. You're now hearing sounds that maybe you haven't heard before, or you've listened to some of the songs you're familiar with, and now you're hearing them differently than you have. So we want to refine this process, and so the next stage is, whereas expanding that sound stage, we could compare that to looking at something off in the distance, like with a pair of binoculars. Let's say you're a hunter, and you can see an animal, a deer, or something like that somewhere off in the distance. You get your binoculars out, suddenly something that's off in the distance suddenly comes into picture, and you can see some of what's there that you may not be able to see, but it's still just a little bit fuzzy. So now what you want to do with those binoculars is get that fine adjustment knob and tune it in to where what's now suddenly become apparent to you that you can now see, you want to be able to see it very clearly. And that's what those fine adjustment knobs are going to do on the binoculars. And that's what vibration dampening will do for your system, where now as you've established a sound stage, there may be muddiness or smearing in songs that you're familiar with, but maybe you haven't even noticed it before. So what vibration detoxification is going to do is provide refinement and clarity of tone that's really going to begin to bring that music into focus in a way that's going to really be pleasing to you. I remember the first pair of speakers that I ever did this kind of dampening to. Actually, the Klipsch Heresy ones, right back over here, was living in a different location, which really doesn't matter a hill of beans. But when I first bought those speakers, at first I had buyer's remorse, and I'm a Klipsch guy. But the sound was very, very muddy, very boomy, and it was quite disappointing. But I knew that they were good speakers, and so I sat there and listened to them for some time, and I thought, what on earth is going on with these speakers? They should be good. They should sound really good. Many people are crazy about these speakers. They could use some enhancement on the low end. They do lack bass, but the tone and the presence is amazing. So I sat there and listened to them and thought, this boominess and this muddiness that I'm hearing has got to be coming from the resonance in those cabinets. There's a 12-inch woofer in that little cabinet, and they're booming pretty loud. So I took off the back panel on that cabinet, and it was bone dry. There was no dampening, no foam, no nothing in those things. It was just an empty cabinet, and I thought, you know what? A little bit of dampening could probably really help these things. And so I did. And when I put them back together, could not believe the improvement in not just the tone, but the clarity. That boominess and that muddiness in the low end went away. Especially, I was listening to a lot of jazz music at the time, like Diana Krall and some other folks. And I just remember listening to an upright bass, and all of a sudden what had been somewhat muddy, to say the least, all of a sudden now I could hear the not only the plucking of the strings on that upright bass, but I could even hear in some instances that you could just tell the fingernail, just how it scraped across the string. and that was just from doing some vibration dampening. So it works very well to help refine sound, clarity, tone, and improve what you're able to hear. So like the binoculars, bringing that fine adjustment knob in, dampening will help to bring into focus what you're listening to. And also, just with those same speakers, the horns, the mid-range and the highs on those Heresies are beautiful if you like horns. And I did not realize how that much vibration and muddiness, as I later learned, what's happening is in the mid-range and the upper mid-range, basically the frequencies are being impacted by the vibrations, and so you begin to lose a lot of detail, and so the smearing, or you just lose detail in that mid-range. And then once that vibration, a lot of it was removed, then the clarity in the mid-range and the highs just shone as well. It was really a beautiful thing. Another place where audiophiles really like to focus on doing some dampening, or in this case decoupling, which is still a way to reduce and minimize vibrations, is on your turntables. The vibrations, in the same way that I just mentioned about how it impacts, and with the Heresies, how it impacted the mid-range, the frequencies can get blurred, smeared a little bit, loss of detail from micro vibrations or just regular vibrations, even as they're affecting a turntable. So isolation platforms are a great idea, and there's lots of money can be spent on platforms and decoupling feet. But just again, in this project right here, what we're trying to do is isolate those, or focus on those specific areas where we can really maximize the potential of your sound system with as little money as possible. And once you've gone through this initial setup, then at the very end, you should be in a much better position to know which component or what components you may want to buy, if any. You may not find the need to, but also at that point, if you want to continue with your improvement of your system, you'll be able to know where to better spend your money, like with higher end isolation feet or things like that. They can get, anything with audio, as you well know, can get pretty pricey, but for now we want to keep it fairly low, as low cost as possible. Okay, so before we go further, I do want to ask you guys to do something, and giving you guys homework, that stinks. No, I'm not giving y'all homework, but if you've done your or established a soundstage, done some semblance of room treatment to improve that, and now you're hearing things differently. Undoubtedly, as we said earlier, you probably have heard some things differently. So what I would ask you to do is take you some notes, however you want to do it. If it's mental notes, that's fine, but it would be good to keep some kind of just a little diary, 5 to 10 songs that you know really well, that from this point forward you can take notes on the differences and the changes that you hear, or the differences that you hear as you make changes. So at this point, if you've done the soundstage thing, you should be hearing some things differently. So go ahead and listen to it again, with your 5 or 10, however many, just favorite. It could even be just 2 or 3, but however many songs that you want to be able to make discernible differences as you go. That way, at the end of this thing, you'll be able to look back and say, wow, this didn't really cost much to go from point A to point B, and now I can see how my system went from being like a caterpillar to a butterfly, and how things did come into focus and that sort of thing. So as you go and make these changes, you'll be able to take notes and make subtle differences and be able to track what you're hearing or the changes that you're hearing along the way. Okay, I'm not going to make this too terribly long, but I do want to going to start with showing you a isolation platform that I made myself. So you can do this fairly affordably. You can this one right here, as you can see, it's just a chop block. Got this off Amazon, and you can cut some wood. Another option that I would love to do, I haven't done it, but I know people, or a guy who has, but if you know some place that makes countertops and they use granite, or some place that sells granite that's finished, maybe, or even marble, perhaps you can go find one of those places and look in there. Sometimes they have remnant bins, and maybe you can find a small piece, and they'll either give it to you or sell it to you very, very cheap, which would really be nice to have a pair of granite, a set or a piece of granite as a isolation platform for your turntable. But this one right here is a chop block. Got it off Amazon. Got this a couple of years ago, so it was probably cheaper than what it costs right now. I think it was like $17 or $18 at the time. But then on the back of it, I actually slapped a couple of pieces of the aluminum seal tape that has that butyl lining. Put that in the cabinets. We'll look at that in just a minute. But you can see here, and it comes with these little rubber pads that have little feet, so you can put this on your countertop and it'll stay. It shouldn't slide too much. But these little rubber bumper feet right here, these little boogers, they're sorbethane, nice rubber, and they do a great job of let's see, going all the wrong way here, but you can see how they look, and they're about maybe 3/4 of an inch, I believe, in height. But that gives you an idea of what, when you flip it over and set something on top of it, it looks really good, looks really clean. And but that's a good example of an isolation platform that you can make on the cheap. So the feet are not really very expensive. Hang on one second, and I'll pull up some examples from Amazon of the current prices of those things. But those little feet, I put on my components, like my amplifier, or receiver rather. I keep calling that Cambridge AXR 100 an amp, but technically it's a receiver. I just use it as an amp, but I use that on my CD transport, my streamer. I use those on just about everything. They're fantastic. Hold on one second while I pull those pictures up. Okay, I stink at pulling up these pictures. I don't know how to make them a really good size, so it's kind of like, I feel like I'm having to look over the picture to see it. The same thing that you're looking at, even though it's just right in front of me. Very strange feeling. And I don't know if you guys have tried making videos, but talking into a little tiny thing, a little lens, is very, very weird. It's challenging, it's hard, and it's weird, but it's a lot of fun at the same time. Appreciate y'all putting up with me. But this is off Amazon. These are, well, I'm just going to go ahead and expand this. What the heck? Okay. So let's see. Current price is like $10 for this many of those 20 pieces. And that's just one example of these little rubber feet. You can pause that and get the information off there if you would like. All right. I'm going to try to find another one. Hang on. Okay, there's another set. Let's see. These are, yep, point. I think these are the ones that I got that I just showed you, like 3/4 of an inch. So you can see what those look like. $13 for 25, I guess. So that's not too bad. Not too bad at all. We'll take a quick look and just see what else they have in terms of sorbethane feet. Hang on one second. Okay, these were pretty neat looking. 2 1/4 inches wide and 1/2 inch thick. Kind of pricey compared to the others. You only get 4 of them, but they look pretty robust. Okay, that's the the same foot right there, just to kind of give you an idea of the size or the circumference. Circumference. Am I saying that right? This isolation platform. This is actually from a video. If you're little, I can't talk. If you're familiar with Jay's Iyagi, that's a channel. Jay, I want to say Korean, but don't quote me on that. He made this video several years ago, and I think Iyagi is Korean for journey, so it's like Jay's journey. That's why I was trying to think of the nationality for the language. But he made this platform a few years ago. I think he said he got that cutting board off of maybe IKEA, something like that, and then got basically very similar sorbethane feet to what I just showed you. But that was a platform that he had put together for his turntable right there. So just wanted to show you if the top YouTubers guys are out there using these, you can too. And again, they don't cost very much, relatively speaking. and those little rubber feet help out a lot. You can put them on all your components, or most of your components. Okay, so now we've been talking about getting rid of some vibrations in your turntable, and we've talked a little bit about the speakers. Now I want to show you I have another friend that had an old pair of Pioneers from the early 90s, I think, and really had a lot of fun with these. We did these together. It was a little project that we got together a while back and didn't cost him really anything. I had some parts, so to speak, that I had left over from some of these projects that I got going on, and plus I got a free homemade pizza out of the gig, so I was very happy with that. I love good pepperoni pizza. But let's look at his speakers, and I'll show you what we did to those Pioneers. Again, very proud of how these turned out for him, because these are a perfect example of how you can take, especially an older speaker that compared to modern equipment may not be considered that high-end per se, but we took those pair of speakers, did some really good dampening to them, and man, turned those speakers around and they sounded fantastic. Let me find those pictures. Hang on one second. Okay, look at these bad boys. I know that you guys have seen Pioneers and Fisher and Techniques, these kind of speakers. Well, I'm 54, so if you grew up in the 80s, I know you remember these speakers from the 90s, so lots of these around. Anyway, they were gutted in this picture, if you can't tell. This is another angle of the same speaker. You can see those ports right there. Another photo, similar angle. I think I said ports. That's just one port, it looks like, on these. All right, so in this photo, we're starting to put down that aluminum seal tape. You can get it at Home Depot, Walmart probably, Lowe's. It's just, I think a lot of construction workers or roofers use this around on the roofs in various places, but it has a nice little 2 millimeter thick lining of butyl, so it's got some weight to it, absorbs vibrations really well. So this is a good vibration dampening tool for the cabinets. Sometimes I use Noico as well, and you'll see some of that in just a minute. Okay, we got the inside lined pretty good there with the seal tape, looking good. Looks pretty sharp. All right, this is what I'm talking about here. This made it really sound nice. So, and that's just a foam gel topper from Walmart. So you can get those things fairly affordably. So, you know, if maybe you have some various items like these already laying around the house, but if you do have to go out and buy the components, the parts to be able to do something like this, and also we used 3M spray adhesive. Comes in a maroonish looking can. So I think nowadays a can of that may run about $12-13 depending on where you get it. You can get the foam gel toppers for around $30 to $40, and then the seal tapes around $15 to $20 for a roll of that. So for $75-80 ish, you should be able to if you have to go out and buy this stuff. But that is a little bit of money, but it's not bad at all, relatively speaking, compared to what you would pay for much higher quality or much higher priced components like these that can give you some really good vibration dampening. And that foam gel topper did a great job for killing the resonance, for dampening the resonance in the speaker. And like we talked about earlier, once we got these hooked back together, big difference in low end, mid range, and highs as far as the clarity of tone. All right, and here on the last photo for these Pioneer speakers, but you can see on this woofer that we use the Noico mat on the legs of the woofer baskets. So the intent here is to help kill vibrations to an extent to before they even get into the cabinet itself. And another thing that you can do if you're fairly handy around the house or could do some woodworking in speakers, if you have room, if you have space in your speakers, you can add bracing So you can type that into your YouTube search. Plenty of videos out there about bracing cabinets as well. They will most likely provide a little bit better vibration dampening than just doing the seal tape or the Noico alone. But the thing is, with the bracing, you don't want to make them too tight because you don't want too much pressure on those cabinet walls or the roof of the cabinet. So, but they do work very well. And if you're handy with wood, then that's something you may want to try. Cut up a few pieces of wood, glue them into the cabinets. It'd be fantastic. So, summarizing, consider some different ways to minimize vibrations in your system. We looked at some of the little sorbethane feet that can be placed underneath your various components and your turntable, or a platform that you can either make or buy using a cutting board, something like that, to help minimize different vibrations coming from your system, and can help improve your overall clarity in sound by reducing some of the vibrations that may be in your system. And doing some dampening where you can to your speakers, if you're able to, the sound improvement will be very noticeable. Should be very noticeable. So now that you got your sound stage set up and you've done some room treatments, you've expanded that sound. Just like with a pair of binoculars, we want to refine that sound so that you can begin to get even better clarity of sound, more refinement, to be able to hear more clearly what you're listening to. And you'll really be amazed at what you hear. Again, songs that you're already familiar with, take some notes, and you'll be well on your way to seeing your system, like that caterpillar, go from just being a caterpillar to turning into a butterfly. So take you some good notes along the way. And also, once we get done with these series, just something to think about. But if this has made a difference for you, feel free to let me know in a comment, and I'll probably need to create an email address, but would love to hear from some of you guys as to how this has benefited your listening experience. So maybe you could send some pictures of your system and a little testimonial, and just describe how the change in this process, or implementing this process, has helped the change in your system. And maybe you didn't have to really spend any money to really enjoy it, or maybe you got this far and decided to try doing some dampening, spend a little bit of money there, hopefully not too much, and made a difference as well. And on the next video, we'll go into talking about how signal path detox can continue to improve clarity, as well as provide some other benefits to your system. So if you've made it this far, thank you again so much for tuning in. Hope this helps, and I hope to see you on the next video. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.